Welcome to today's Destination Unknown. I'm your host, Alyssa Hall, and today is really another one of those truly destination unknown for your host, Alyssa Hall, because this is exciting. I'm kind of having fun with this. This is a different twist we've been trying here on the videos. And that is last time I read with a pendulum, which I hadn't done for so many years. If you saw that video, you know that's the truth. And that was kind of interesting, but I wasn't sure what to read about. And so I just left that open as a Facebook question. So some of you who are on the channel popped on and responded then, including some people who weren't, I believe, in that one. And that was so interesting to me that I had in my mind from the beginning that at sometime during the summer, I wanted to do a video where I was reading with a brand new deck. And the reason for that is I actually bought a brand new deck, which I haven't done in well over a decade, maybe more than 15 years since I last bought a deck. If anything, I've been in a downsizing phase for a long time. But I happened to be talking to Antonia, who's definitely someone who knew all about the crow tarot, and she knows my fascination, my love of crows, of ravens, of corvids. And so she recommended it, and I looked into it, and I thought it was so cool that I just decided, why not? I haven't bought a deck in a long time. I'll get one. So I could tell when I was browsing some of the artwork that's available online that you can see. And by the way, here's the outside of the box. And of course, everything's reversed here, but whatevs. And so I really thought the imagery was really interesting. I could tell that it was following a Rider-Waite-Smith concept in a lot of the cards. So you might call it a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, is what some people will call these types of decks that are highly inspired by. This particular deck is put out by US Games, so it's really widely available. You can buy those. If you can find a local seller, that's great. If they happen to have it and you see it on the shelf and you want to pick it up, I always recommend buying local and small, because the larger bookstores that carry like Borders or larger, those are going to be fine without our business, but the small guys may not be. And then if that's not something that's available to you in your area, then apply that concept, if you will, to the same thing with our online sellers. So I would go to Tarot Garden for more of a boutique, as I would call it, experience for shopping for your tarot. However, there is a lot to be said about the convenience of the great beast of Amazon. So if that's your resort, maybe go to Smile Amazon and support one of your local charities as well, if that's the route you go. That's what I tell myself anyway. So today I bought this deck earlier this spring. I have not read with it. So I've looked at it, I've shuffled it, but I haven't actually read with it. And I decided to save that experience and to do that on camera instead. So that's what today's agenda is. I literally am holding a cup of tea that I made right before I hit record. So it's blazing hot. So I think this is going to be my prop that I sip once and set down. Yeah, that's hot. So here is the deck. It's, if I'm holding it in my hand, there's my hand next to it for size. It's what I would call a slightly larger than an average size deck. A lot of tarot decks are just a little bit thinner. This one feels not as large as a Thoth, but just a little larger than my universal weight, if any of those make sense. The deck itself has more of a matte than a glossy finish. If I shine it towards the light, you'll see it does catch some light. There is a gloss to the sheen of the cards themselves. It's not showing up so much. There, got it. There it goes for the cards themselves. So it has a light gloss, but it's a low gloss. So it feels much more like a matte finish than it does a gloss finish. It handles really nicely in the hands as far as shuffleability. Some cards are just really weird from the get-go, especially you heard me mention before when in the shuffling video from way back, that the cards that come with really highly plasticized exterior coatings Oh Lord, I hate those. They just slide everywhere and it's like shuffling ice and they just slide and slide. These have a little bit more grip to them because they are a bit more of a matte than a full gloss. So you saw me doing my shuffle. I lace when I shuffle and then I spin to get reversals included as well and to randomize those as well. And I tried to set up the camera so you guys can kind of see me while I work. So one of the questions that we got, and this is going to be a heck of a long video, so we're just going to go for it today. Settle in, pause me now if you need to. One of the questions that came up first was one, and I'm going to go back to it in a second. I think this one came from Shannon, but I'll correct myself if that's not correct in my memory. But her question, one of them was, what can the signs, the zodiac signs, expect, or what should they try to achieve by the next full moon? So right now, last night was the new moon. So the next full moon is about 2 weeks away. So this kind of puts a focus on the next 2 weeks. And I thought I would just pull a card for each one of the signs. And I made sure to put a list of the signs next to me here because I don't trust myself to work from memory. So, all right, so getting started, the first on the list is Aquarius. So Aquarius, what to expect or focus on is the Page of Wands reversed. And you'll notice I'm not going to talk too much about the imagery. I'm just going to do a reading, but I'm going to talk about anything that pops to me as far as, because this is my first time reading with the deck. So if this card is upright, you'll notice that we see the page itself is shown as the singular figure of the crow. And the wand is something that they're perched on, almost like a magic wand, or the kind of wands that remind me of Harry Potter, that sort of thing. Now, wands are, they direct your attention and they direct your focus and your willpower to what you want to achieve. So they're very much creative cards, and they're less about analytical skills. That's the swords. So the page in this one, because it's reversed, there's a blockage that's coming about. A page, when they're upright, they're brand new at a situation. And so here, something about this brand new situation or situation that's creatively new to you, you might be feeling a blockage. It could even be a creative blockage if you're having writer's block or something like that, like the inability to actually direct your will as if that was being physically stopped by another force, even an interior force. Okay, I have to remember I'm reading a ton today, so I have to try to be brief about these as well. And you, as usual, on a Monday lately, Huckleberry, my assistant, is off to the side and adding her 2 cents as she goes. So Pisces, you come next. Let's take a look and see what's in store for you, what to focus on. So this is the 10 of Swords, and it's also a reversal card. This particular card, when it's upright, it shows these 10 swords, which are piercing the back of the raven, the figure itself. And that, again, is a strong likening to Pamela Coleman Smith's original. What is in particular about this card when it's upright, it really shows you, yes, you've been betrayed. Things are in a hurtful phase for you right now, and you might be feeling that betrayal, but also it's time to begin to move beyond it. So if you have been stuck in this sense of having been stabbed in the back, betrayed by someone that you trusted on any front, then know that it's time at a certain point with this card, once you've really fully felt the emotion, you have to begin to heal yourself, to heal those wounds. And so you're at a phase now where you can begin to heal, but it's going to take some effort. It's going to take a mindfulness about that. That healing doesn't just happen spontaneously on its own, unfortunately. Okay, next card. We have Aries. Aries, you have the Two of Wands. Very cool card. My very first instinct when I saw this card, because they have two figures in it, I thought perhaps it might be the Lover's card, but no, it's the Two of Wands quite specifically. And so there's something about the card itself. It's very unusual. This is one that's a little bit different than the Rider-Waite-Smith original, especially because we have two figures in this. That's untraditional from the original. And there's something about a pairing or a duality, especially because it's a number two card. So whenever twos come up, they are talking about taking something that was once a seed, the ace is the seed, and then the seed begins to divide and it begins to expand. And that division, as we begin to understand opposite sides of ourself, that's what that kind of shows. As we grow, we begin to see these other sides within ourselves. So I feel like this is the ability to be looking within yourself, to direct that power interiorly, and to work with that, because that looks exciting, and the growth around it. Specifically, what's talking to me now are these flowers at the bottom. Flowers are representational of growth and the potential of new fruit. And so invite and embrace that growth that's coming in for you, Pisces or Aries. Okay, Taurus, let's see what you have in store. What should you be focusing on in the next 2 weeks? There are a lot of wands coming up in this. So this would be the Eight of Wands when it's upright. But we see a reversal. Now, the upright, this is another one that's highly indicative of the original artwork. It shows a time when things are rushing, they're happening very quickly. You might even feel like you're flying into the wind, is my feeling with this. Because the upright sense is a feeling of like the wind at your back, if you can imagine that metaphor here with the birds. I feel like that's the sense of the reversal. You're actually flying into the wind. It's the movement can still keep happening for you, but it takes a tremendous amount more effort for whatever this creative. And because it's a wands card, I do think it's a creative process that you're working with and against right now as well. But keep at it, because again, there are flowers in this card. Flowers are indicative of those gifts that are coming to us. So don't give up. There's definitely a good possibility of fruitfulness from these efforts. It's not all for naught, so to speak. Okay, next, let's take, that was for our Taurus. Gemini, let's see what is coming up next for you in the next 2 weeks. The Lovers card. Interesting that before I thought I saw the Lovers card, or not the Lovers, but the Two of Cups. All of those often will have two figures, go figure, in the card itself. But here, being the Lovers card, this is going to be one that carries a lot more weight. So far we've been seeing minor arcana come forward for all of our other signs. This tells me that for you, things are much more indicative of a time that's hitting the soul level. That's what I talk about when it comes to the major arcanas. So Gemini, you're doing some deep soul work right now. The fact that this is two and you are also two people within yourself, within the singular, the Gemini has to embrace both sides of those contradictory sides of the personality and really unite them into one figure. That's what I'm really getting is happening for you, both within yourself on a deep level and potentially in the exterior world as well. So if you find yourself, especially what's coming to me next as I look at the card, even in the screen of the card, is how the minds are coming together. It's like a meeting of the minds. So if you have this strong magnetic pull to somebody, you think alike, you're drawn to them. And what really pops to me also is the figure that the heart, there's a heart between these two. We see the literal heart, but the heart, the metaphorical heart that the two of these people, they're each making, each one side of this to happen. So they have to work together. This is a profound partnership that's happening, and it feels very intended to be. Be aware of your choices in this moment. You are in control of your choices, and choice is always a subtext of the Lover's card. Okay, that was for Gemini. Cancer, this is yours. Next, let's take a look. All right. Wow, it took me a while to even know what this card was because it was reversed, first of all. It's the Five of Swords. I see it now. Okay, so here's what it looks like when you first see it upside down with the reversal. Let's take a look at it upright for you. And so when this card is upright, we do see a figure or illustration that's closer to Pamela's original, and that's why I was like, oh yes, I get it. I see it now. It is inspired by the original, and it shows us when the card is upright, it shows us a time where we have to begin to craft our own understanding, our analytical understanding of ourself. The ego concepts, or how we frame our narrative of how we understand ourselves, that's embodied within the swords card itself, or swords suit itself. So when the 5 specifically comes up, it shows a time when it's upright. It shows a time when the figure is beginning to really put together some of their own ego concepts. They've dropped a few that they were given in the past or that they perhaps have carried about themselves. They've dropped a few along the way. And because they're in this phase of self-reinvention, some of the people in their lives have actually turned their back on them. Now that's the card upright. So when you take all those messages and begin to apply them to a reversal, it means either that the person might not be able to embrace these ego concepts and they're afraid of rejection, or they're afraid of being left alone. And so therefore it's stopping them from taking that next step into understanding themselves better or living their more authentic self. And so that's something that it's asking you to pay attention to. What are you sacrificing for other people, or for the safety of having other people's acceptance, even if you know it's not really suited for you? And it's asking you to move beyond. Don't be afraid. Don't be trapped. Don't be paralysis by analysis. Take that and move forward. It's time, because you're stuck in that energy form right now. That was Cancer. All right, Leo. Let's see. Whoa, I almost had a jumper on that one. And so far, I haven't had any jumpers, as you can see. So Leo, let's see. What are you focusing on in the next 2 weeks, Leo? All right, more wands. This is the 5 of Wands, and it's an upright card. It's so interesting to me that the wands this time make the colors of a rainbow, because as we've seen so far, the wands in our previous cards have all been black. And they've been that way so consistently that I didn't know until this card that the artist or the illustrator ever made another choice as far as the colors of the wands. So that to me immediately strikes me as something that's significant to this deck and what the card's trying to express. So let's take a look at it. Now, the 5 of Wands, when it's seen, it's very similar, again, a very strong, close representation to the Rider-Waite-Smith original. This is a card where if you see all of these pieces of a concept, if these 5 people who each had a part of the idea or some aspect of ownership to this idea, if they would stop making noise about how special they were and they could just combine all of their ideas together, they would actually make something of this. They would do something, so to speak. But right now, everybody's so enamored of what their particular talent or ability or piece of the puzzle is that it's causing confusion all around you. And it's keeping this project or this creative idea, the creativity comes through with the wands, it's keeping it from expressing itself fully. And so this is my Leo. Leos, that is something that you need to work. So that might mean having to compromise a bit, getting other people to compromise, or getting them to understand that the bigger picture, that if we just put all of these pieces together, that we can all have ownership of the final product. Sometimes people are so hung up in being the one who thought of it or inspired it or owns this idea that they'll hold on tightly too. That's another way of, I feel like the gripping that I see with the talons holds on. They're being so proprietary about their place in all of this that they're not necessarily seeing we just need to work together and we could create something amazing. Okay, Leo, that was for you. Virgo, let's take a look. Okay, that felt a little bit presentational, but I would rather split the deck. Virgo, the Ace of Swords reversed. Now, here's the upright, and we see the rising figure of the raven. This is definitely a raven that we see, by the way. Some of these, I know they call themselves the Crow Tarot, but we won't get too much into corvids, but trust it from Alyssa. So in any case, what are we seeing here with this rising crow? The Ace of Swords, like I said before, it is a seed. It is the potential to be something. And the sword itself is a suit which talks about your analytical abilities or how you are defining yourself to yourself as you live this lifetime. So when the ace comes along and it's upright, it shows a new identity, a new concept, ego concept that's beginning to glimmer from within you, but it's only a potentiality at this point. Because this is a reversal, it feels like the creativity and the concept behind it is being snuffed out, as if it's just being stuck in the ground. It feels like the sword literally is being driven into the ground, and with it, the momentum of the bird would be going down into the ground and coming to a hard stop. So, something about this new ego concept or understanding that might be coming through on a more analytical level for yourself. If you're feeling a blockage with it right now, it's not just you. The cards recognize that. And it might be time to put a literal pin in it, is another idea that I'm getting from this today. We use that phrase to mean like it's not a bad idea, but it's just not the time for that idea right now. So the potential is there, but it may be the timing for it is off, is a meta message that I'm getting with this card. That's a little bit more specific to today's reading than it is the card itself as far as technique. Okay. Oh, wow. It looks like today I'm only going to make it through, like every single zodiac sign is going to get me to pull a card, but that's about all I'm going to have time for because I'm going to run out of memory here soon. So let's keep it moving, but make sure we cover all of that. Maybe I'll just have to do this again. I think this is a cool idea. Maybe I'll just throw an extra one in soon so I can cover the other questions that I was asked. Okay, so that was our Virgo. Let's take a look at Libra next and see what's in store. That's my sign, by the way. Okay, we have the Six of Wands, and it's an upright card. I'll take it. So this particular card shows a time of mastery, a time where your work is being exemplary, it's being noticed. And in the traditional illustration, we see someone riding in on horseback and elevated above the crowd. Here we see that same concept being applied, where there's a crowd and an elevated figure above them who's being lauded, so to speak, by being inside the wreath with all the energy coming out. And all of the wands are directed, all the attention and energy is going to this singular person. So what does this tell me? This tells me, Libra, it's been a time where your work is probably being noticed. You have been lifted up around you from others who might be doing just the bare minimum. Your ability to go above and beyond and or to succeed in this situation is not going unnoticed. So bask in it. Don't be stuck up. That's always a subtext to this card, because if you get a big head about it, tarot and the universe has a great way of dumping you back off your high horse. But yes, take a moment to feel proud. Be proud of the efforts that you've achieved and of the accomplishments that are garnering your interest your way. Okay, what comes next? Which, hey, by the way, I think I know what that applies to in my life, and I'm really happy about that. Okay, Scorpio, in case you were sidebar, just wondering. Okay, Scorpio, 10 of Cups, and it's a reversal. So let's talk about this. The 10 of Cups, when it's there and it's an upright card, it's sometimes called the happy family card. It shows generations who are together, and here we do see two paired off birds. Now, it's worth noting, if you don't already know, that ravens and I believe also crows will mate for life. So when we see these mated pairs showing up in a card like this or in our Lover's card, when these paired birds show up specific to this deck, they are connoting that sense of deep dedication and devotion that these two have dedicated to one another, because that's unusual, but not for this particular breed. It's not. It might be unusual in the wild kingdom, but not for some breeds, this being one of them. So they are a devoted pair to each other. They have each other's interests as well as the family unit's interests in mind. If we zoom in on this one, the tree, the nest in the tree is really kind of speaking to me because it is a card that sometimes, like I said, it's called the happy family card. So it talks a lot about the issues of home and stability and your nest and having that safe place to come home to and to be comfortable in and feel this lovely sense of bounty and emotional safety. The downside for you, my friends, is that it was a reversal. So there's something about all of the good aspects of this card that either aren't being realized in this situation at hand, and it is an emotional one. This is the first cup suit to come forward in the reading today, and that's the suit that talks about your emotions and your emotional realm. So either it's not getting expressed, that could be the nature of the blockage, that both you and or your partner are feeling a sense of being happy and secure, but maybe are not expressing it fully to one another, so it's not as secure or as bountiful as it could be. Or it could literally be the sense that something about your emotional safety and the happy family aspect is being challenged, is being uprighted, is upended. Oh, Huckleberry talks about that too right now here next to me. So, yes, something about this situation, it's very idyllic when it's upright. Something about that idyllic picture is off right now, either because it's not being realized or it's not being expressed in the here and now. Okay. And that was for our Scorpio. All right, next we will be taking a look at Sagittarius. Sagittarius, let's see what you have coming for the next 2 weeks. Ace of Cups, upright. So here this time, unlike our Ace of Swords, which was a reversal, our Ace of Cups just shows the potentiality of the ace as a seed. So to use the metaphor once more, when an ace comes up, I tell people it's as if somebody hands you a lettuce seed. You have the potential to eat a salad someday, but that isn't here today. There's only the potential for that to come. There are a lot of factors that still have to be met in order for it to culminate into its final form. And so that's what the essence of the ace is here as well. And because it's a cup, that shows it's the loves. And so it's your emotional realm, it's someone or something that you love, that you have passion for. It could definitely be intuition as well. The cup suit is the most strongly associated with your intuitive awareness as well as your emotional awareness. And you see that the cup just runs over. That really comes to me as I look at this particular illustration. It's bountiful right now. There is so much to be had. It spills forth so naturally from you and to you. It waters the ground around you, just like your love and your emotion spills from you and goes to those that you love as well. So from this cup of bounty, there's a lot of good things. Could be some passion project coming forward, or it could just be literally something new that you're passionate about, that you have a new interest in. Or literally, if you're a single, it might be a new love interest or the potentiality for a new love interest. And that was Sagittarius. So our last sign is Capricorn. Capricorn, we did not forget you. And the next 2 weeks, this is the Seven of Swords upright. The 7. This is a very interesting, different take. So this is one of those cards where I feel the illustrator definitely went in their own direction. And for that reason, I want to pay more attention to what they're showing me. So this one, as you can tell, is giving me a bit of a pause, and that happens sometimes. I'm getting several messages at the same time. So let's just kind of unravel them. This happens sometimes when I work intuitively. And Capricorn, your particular card, for whatever reason, has the most intuitive messages for me. Now, when I read for people, I often tell them my intuition may or may not present itself as far as the reading and how it goes. I always give the background of the card. So far in this reading, we've done a lot that is based on the illustrator's version combined with my technique of knowing the history and the background for the cards, as well as my own interpretations that I've built in. So coming at all of this fresh, what am I trying to say? If I zoom in on this one, for one thing, what the first thing that really threw me was the directionality of the swords seemed to be going in so many different directions, including, if you look at the fingers, if you will, coming off the wing of the raven that's pictured. So this feels like, in one hand, now we talked before about swords are ego identity or your analytical skills, and this feels like your analytical or your concept of yourself. Some have been buried into the ground and just solidified. That's become very solid in who you are. Those don't change. Some that are pointing this way they used to be stable, and now those ideas of yourself have tipped. So it's like there are a few that are solid, there are a few that are being challenged, and there are a few that you know within your heart are really authentically yours, that you can take with you, no matter how the rest of these identity concepts may change. What does that mean? That's one thing that's going to have to happen from within you. If this is a calling that you feel right now to this particular card, that yes, there are different aspects of yourself that are either being expressed, embraced, challenged, or denied, or solidified to the point of they're unwilling to change. And the intuitive aspect that came to me next, I don't know if you can tell, there looks to be, oh gosh, I forget the tribe. There's a tribe that I'm thinking of from the Pacific Northwest that uses this particular, closer to this style of a raven in their work, as far as their totems and that sort of thing that you will see in that area. So what that drew to me, it immediately, as I flipped this card over, my first impression was swords going everywhere. What card is this? The 7. Huh. Whoa, Pacific Northwest. That was literally, if I had to give verbiage and slow down my impressions as they came to me when I flipped this card and took all that in, that's what I was getting. So this particular image immediately drew me to that geographical area, and that's where the intuitive messages come in. So that may or may not apply to you. Since I'm not a reading for one specific person, it becomes much more challenging to me as a reader as far as how something more specific in the card may apply to you as you listen, Capricorn. But again, Pacific Northwest, like Seattle, Oregon, Portland, all of this, like Washington State, that whole area up there gets pulled as a subtext to this card. So it could be that there's someone tangentially involved who actually lives there, or that sometimes when I've had impressions like that before, they'll tell me after the fact, well, that's where the corporate headquarters are, but we don't deal with them. We just have to deal with what they tell us to do. Something like that can come up as a subtext sometimes when these weird pops come up. So leave yourself open to that, but also know that it's something that came from me intuitively. And it's difficult for me, since I'm reading for anyone who's watching, to know exactly how does a specific message like that land. So yes, definitely take a look at, this is a time to challenge your beliefs, your concepts of yourself. These are changing around you. Some of them need challenged more than others. And some of them, they're close. You've got them. You've got them right by your heart. You understand those aspects of yourself. Okay, so I guess I made it to a little over half an hour just doing this much of one question of the reading, but I have to stop this here before my camera shuts off on its own. But thank you for joining me today. This was really fascinating. I don't know if this was helpful to see an experienced reader reading with a brand new deck, trying to apply what they've learned, and then also put that into a new frame, a new context by looking at this illustrator and this deck artist. At one point, I thought maybe I would read all of the definitions as I went today. I'm so glad I didn't, or we'd be here until next Tuesday, I reckon. So anyhow, that was my Crow Tarot. Thank you for joining me today. And as always, let's keep listening.